Welcome to the Power of Investing in People podcast, #Firestarters series. I am your host, Chief Excitement Officer Sha Sparks, and check out our new #Firestarters co-author collaborative book on my website at shasparks.com. And we are so excited, or I am so excited to have my amazing, incredible friend, coach, mentor, co-author, Adam Boubede. So welcome to the show, Adam.
Thank you very much, Shay. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to get this book launched, and it's a great time to celebrate and join you on this podcast too, and really talk about what the chapter's about and what #Firestarters book project is about.
You know, I just have to say thank you, because I know you're in a completely different time zone, in a completely different country. So thank you so much for your patience and your effort for, being willing to do this project while being abroad. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Happy to do it.
And do you want to tell our guests where you are?
So I'm currently in Ramstein Air Base out in Germany. Right now, about 7 hours ahead of where you're at in Central Time. As you can see from the beautiful scenery behind me, that we have plenty of sunshine right now. All last week it was rainy, and unfortunately, some of our fellow teammates right to the west of us out at Spangdahlem are having some severe flooding right now.
Wow.
Right. So it's starkly different. And those are really close to us. Right. But anyway,
yeah,
I don't want to go down that road. But so everybody's in a little bit different circumstances. I'm just being appreciative of being here with you right now.
Awesome. And you are, for those who don't know, you are in the Air Force. You're a Senior Enlisted Officer. So please share with us your title.
I am Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, as you said, and I'm currently the Squadron Superintendent for the 786 Civil Engineer Squadron out here at Ramstein.
Awesome. And you're also a coach, a mentor, you're a co-author in this book, and you're most of all, you're a leader, which, I feel like I only associate with leaders anymore, which I love. And you also have this passion to inspire others to become their best selves and to have high levels of performance. And I just think that shows in your social media posts and in the chapter of your book, because you are really focusing on how you work with nonprofits.
That's right. So the title of my chapter is Meaningful Change. And while I was writing it, it started off with the content first, right? And then I started really thinking about it, like, man, what am I calling this? What's going to be that point that really stands on top, that sums it all up? And I really thought that's what it was. And I felt like those words kind of wrapped up the whole experience that I was trying to share. And hopefully it portrays what I expect someone would be able to get after they read it. So they go through and they see what I've got to say about what lessons I learned and the experience I had, and understand, it's not just about creating change for the sake of change. I believe it should have purpose behind it. It should be meaningful with good intent, and for the service of others and to help inspire other people.
You said something really just genuinely wonderful in there about inspiring the meaningful and intentional change. I think oftentimes as humans, we look at change as chaotic or as crazy or as, scary. So you're bringing a whole nother dynamic to looking at change. So I love that I love the title of your chapter, Meaningful Change.
Thank you.
So what and motivated you to, say, yeah, Shay, I want to be a co-author. Why not?
Well, try saying no to Sha Sparks, right? Let's go there.
Wow, I'm honored.
No, I was on the fence, right? I was on the fence about whether or not I should join in the book project. And I wasn't sure if my content, what my story really had that much value, right? Enough to be published, enough to put the work into it. But then I really started thinking about it as like every story has value. It's just, does it have value to the person reading it? It's up for them to decide. But did I feel like putting it out there and taking that risk and just having the courage to do so was worth it? Sure. And because if I was willing to share it with anybody else face to face, why wouldn't I share it on paper? So I felt like, and it kind of crosses so many planes on other things that I've worked on. Whereas, if you show up and there's 100 people in the crowd, great. If you show up and there's only one person in the crowd, great. Teach them, right? Yeah. If you can help one, you never know the potential that one person will have. If they help another person who helps another, and it just keeps going.
Right.
So I guess I couldn't come up with a good reason why not to.
What you said is just spot on about, what we can always help one person, and we have no idea what that one person's ripple effect is going to do, which is really kind of what Firestarters is about, is really being the change that we want to see. And so it's like, let's just, come together inside a book and really inspire other people to do the same. So I love that you mentioned that. And if you don't mind, this is the front of the book, and I'm going to read an excerpt from your chapter, which I absolutely love. It just speaks to me. He says, after you let me start again. After you have found your spark and ignited your fire, you need to find fuel to keep it burning bright. Plainly said, you need to gather resources that feed your pursuit and help you reach your goals. First, look to yourself and understand the sources of the power you have within your control, such as position, expertise, wealth, and social connections. However, nothing is more incredibly powerful than your own passion for pursuing your goals. That just, of course, just spoke to me because of who I am and my business and the name of the book, Firestarters. But I really want to know, what was your mindset behind writing that?
So when I was trying to think about how to lay it out, I honestly, getting the words on paper wasn't the hard part. Narrowing it down to 2,500 words was hard. So I wanted to make sure every single word was there for a reason and it had the punch that we were looking for, right? Plenty of people have told me, whenever you write something or you speak, try to keep it brief, concise, to the point. So when I was thinking through my experience and everything that I learned, one of the biggest things is the biggest hurdle is always yourself. Yes. And the biggest hurdle is always yourself. And I found that once you find something more that's purposeful for you and more meaningful for you, it becomes easier to pursue it, right? And you can dig down. If you're looking for the energy that it's going to take to do whatever you're trying to do, take on a huge endeavor. If you're passionate about it, that's your energy. That's your energy that's going to keep fueling that fire, right? That's going to drive you to try to find all the extra stuff that you're going to need to build the network. When you meet a new person, what's one of the first things you want to talk about? Something that you're passionate about. I don't care who you are, or what you're passionate about, right? So whatever that is, you're already sinking time, energy, and resources into that. And whatever you want to pile into what you call resources, right? Whether that's your money, your time, just effort, and all those things, right? Posting things on social media, the list goes on. But if that's what you have a passion for, you're going to just align with it. And when you dig down and you actually deliberately invest into that instead of just passively do it, it can grow so much more. And then those other things will come.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show that, yes, those other things are things that you should seek, but it starts with you, right? And overall, my story is just about finding purpose through helping others grow. And helping others grow starts with yourself.
And you really have just become like we just talked about, become the change you want to see. When we first met, through our other co-author, a good friend, Joe Bogdan, you had emailed me immediately and was talking to me about SAMI, the nonprofit. And I was like, okay, clearly this guy's passionate about it. So let's just get on a call and hear what he has to say. And so how did you get involved in the SAMI nonprofit?
Oh, man, that's a great story. So I kind of talk about it in my book. For a long time, I avoided it. And I just didn't feel like it was the right organization for me. I didn't feel like it fit. I just kind of was like, yeah, it's a thing. I've heard the name, but I'm going to pay it no attention. And I eventually had a friend of mine who reached out to me. It was a coworker, and she was like, hey, I think this thing you might be interested in. And what it was a simple, they were looking for like camp mentors to go out for like a STEM camp where graduating high school students could go to who were interested in engineering and STEM type fields. And it was at the Air Force Academy. So I was like, cool, I can get a trip to the Air Force Academy for like, certainly a week out in Colorado beat a week in the July heat of Arizona. Like,
yeah.
So I was like, okay, worst case scenario, I'm going to go have a fun time in Arizona, in Colorado Springs. So I went out and I did that. Had a great time, met some really awesome people, came back, and she was like, hey, so did you have fun? I was like, I had a load of fun. This is awesome. She was like, well, if you want to, you should come over and come to a couple of our meetings. And that was hook, line, and sinker. Like, I'm done. And then they just kept feeding me stuff. And then it went from there. And the more I dug into the organization, the more I found value, not only for me, but, and I kind of talk about this in my book too. It was like, man, I personally overlooked this without actually giving it its due diligence and doing some research. I just, as face value, I was like, not for me. But once I really started figuring it out, I was like, I need to spread this around. This can't, because I knew if I felt that way, almost everybody else was feeling the same. So I was like, I was trying to change the dynamic. And that's the start of the story.
And for those of the listeners who don't know, or viewers who don't know, what does SAMI stand for?
It stands for the Society of American Military Engineers. It's a national nonprofit organization that really links together the military and civilian communities in the pursuit of supporting national defense objectives, national infrastructure, and just STEM overall. How do we create more engineers that honestly we can always use more of?
And what did you tell me? You don't have to be in the military. You don't have to be an engineer, and you don't have to be American.
No, yeah. So it's such an interesting name, right? So you don't have to be a degreed engineer. So many people think that. I do not have, my degree is not in engineering. And you do not have to either A, served in the military, or B, currently serving in the military. It just signifies the link, because that's kind of where this thing started back in 1920.
Beautiful. And, you mentioned how, you're really connections and collaborating and networking and supporting each other is really kind of what they do, the mission of what they do, and was kind of what the theory behind what you just wrote. And you are a huge quote guy, so I'm going to use one of the quotes. I love that you do quotes, so I'm going to read one of the quotes that you shared. And if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, an African proverb. And I absolutely agree wholeheartedly, 100%, which is why this book is so important to do it together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think any one of us probably could have wrote out 100 pages of what our stories mean.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I like keeping them short, and you give them a taste, and it's easier for the reader to kind of go through and take something away.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the new perspectives and ideas that come with it, the way the book laid out, I really liked. In the beginning, I was kind of not concerned, but curious on how all these different stories from people who have never really worked together on anything, how this is all going to mesh into a good collaboration that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you read each and every story, you can see the links between all of them, as far as, like being that spark of hope, when in the chaos of everything that's changing, or when you're facing something that you're like, what is this? How to be the person that's making a difference. So I thought that was really cool how those all linked up. And you're right. Just like the proverb says, you can go so much further together.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. It was the thought behind having it people from all these diverse backgrounds was that this book be kind of a little bit of a takeoff from Chicken Soup for the Soul, where instead of having it for like one particular group of people, like say, in the military or nurses or I don't even teachers. And that's kind of what their genre is. And I thought, well, what if we took a theme rather than the people group and show how at the end of the day, we're all very the same, fighting the same sort of battles, going through the same types of stuff, figuring out how to navigate change. And so in the last year, or year and a half since all of this pandemic happened, and that's kind of what the change we're talking about is really like what changes has happened. So what change has really happened for you in the last year and a half, and how have you been able to make it meaningful?
Oh God, so many changes. Like it's 2020, right? Check the box.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, where does this list start on that? I'd say the challenge of that was mostly not only how many changes happened, but the rate of change.
Oh, right. Yes.
Was probably the most difficult thing to deal with. And, technology certainly made things easier, but it also became something we all stumbled on.
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle with, there's so many different virtual platforms, like this one that you invited me on for today. And I was like, what is this? I've never used this one. And then, you got to orient yourself. Where are all the buttons? What are the features? How do I do this? You get better at it. But it's just one of those things that, not only does change never stop, but now it's just this ever-present thing that I think we've kind of adjusted to. And I don't know if we just dulled ourselves to it as well. That like, instead of, a year ago, it would have been like, oh my God, there's this new thing. What are we doing about it? And now it's just like, oh, again? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's going to be something that's difficult to turn the tide on to where, we put more stock into that. And then I do think in some ways, some people saw some of those changes as things they can't overcome. While at the same time, other people saw ways around it, almost saw the change as a benefit.
Yeah.
Right? Like the people who started teleworking and seeing new value in being able to have more time away from work with a home office versus always going into work. And there's so many other more examples, but it kind of was a mindset thing, which is almost the same that you could say for any type of change, really. Because and I think probably all the chapters of the book probably hit on that a little bit, right? Where how it's more about your mindset and how you approach it, how you approach the problem that you're faced with. And that's one thing that I really saw, and I even use when it doesn't matter if it's organizational change that I'm doing for the unit I'm working with, or if it's stuff with Sammy, or really anything else, is just life stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's how you can view all those obstacles as opportunities rather than barriers.
Yes.
And then just kind of use a more principled approach on getting through it. Sometimes you can go through that obstacle, sometimes you can go around it, but no matter what, you have to accept that it's there and think through it. You can't just go like, well, damn, I guess we're not doing the thing, and then give up.
Right. Well, what's coming to me is that you just said accept. It's accept, adapt, overcome, right? It's not about sitting there and complaining about it. I mean, you could, and I'm sure there are plenty of people who have, but in the last year and a half, I've had so many people that I've talked to, like you said, who now have seen the benefit to working from home. And now that their company is like, well, you guys have to come back. They're like, but I don't want to. It's fascinating to see how what we define as a society as work will change over the next, the coming years. And even high school, the last 2 years, high school seniors and juniors, they've had this, they're kind of used to it. So it'll be interesting to see how colleges change. And yeah, it'll just be interesting the next few years to see what shifts.
Well, and there's so many other after effects, right? Because I know some places, especially places like New York City and big metropolitan areas, when you start reducing office space, well, why do you need the building?
Right.
Like, just knock them down, bring them back. And it's the same for the military. It's hey, if people are working from home, why do we need the building? Right.
Exactly.
And then I see it's a double-edged sword, I think, where some people with the opportunity to do those things want to do it. And it is beneficial, right? They get to spend more time with their families. I personally am not a fan of teleworking. Did that cut out for a second?
Nope.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. It froze on my screen.
That's okay.
But I like the interaction with people face to face versus video. And, my preference for doing any type of business is a face to face conversation, phone call, email, like in that order. I guess somewhere between face to face and phone call, you could throw in video conference. But in a 5-minute conversation, you could do what it would take like 30 emails to go back and forth. Right.
Right. Agreed.
And then the other hard part too is sometimes I feel like the accessibility of teleworking almost is more of a burden, right? Because especially since it opened the aperture for, it doesn't matter the distance you are away from your work location, you're expected to answer the phone, right? Or you're expected to be available. So if you work geographically separated, right? And you've got phone calls and conferences you need to be on, well, then your schedule never turns off. Okay, so how does that help you with any kind of, you separating away from work at any given time? It's like you're always on. And I think it creates a new problem set, but same with going through any change, right? Like you just have to keep adjusting.
Well, and I think there's nothing that replaces in-person connection. Nothing. I mean, we see that it works a little bit videoing, And I'm listening an Audible to this book called What Happened to You with Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry. And they're really talking about trauma from childhood, but now they're talking about trauma as the last year and a half is trauma. And how, there is nothing that replaced that human interaction, touch, physical touch, and literally one-on-one, whether it's a handshake, a hug, a high five, a fist bump, whatever. There's something that's unique because of how we're innately made that is really developing who we are and develops that friendship, develops that connection.
Absolutely.
So I'm just really honored that we've had the chance to really get to know each other via via the web and able to connect. And that I know at some point, one day, we'll be able to be in person.
God willing, it's going to happen. We've been so close quite a few times.
Crazy. I'm like, how can't you stay another week in Louisiana?
One of these days. One of these days it's going to happen, and it's going to be awesome. And, all the fireworks and balloons will go up. It'll be crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we just want to wrap up here in a little bit. So just to kind of, if there's advice that someone's listening to this and they're like, sure, writing a chapter sounds good, but that's really not for me. Is there some advice that you would give them that go, you know what, this is what really motivated me or inspired me to do so?
Yeah. So we kind of hit on it. If you're truly passionate about something that you're working on and you want to keep pursuing it and recruit more resources to help that cause, what better way? Right? What better way? And if you truly believe in it, that it's a just cause and worthy of your energy and your effort, why wouldn't you want to share that? Right? So that's what I kind of thought. At some point in time, if you really want something to be successful, you have to take a risk. And if you have the courage, I'd encourage you to just jump in and do it. If you need help, ask for it. Right? Maybe you're not the strongest writer. Okay, but that doesn't mean that your story doesn't have value. So that's kind of the advice I'd give. And, you mentioned that I like quotes. I really do like quotes. And on that very topic, one that's always stood out to me, it's from Andy Stanley. Mm-hmm. He says, courageous leaders are those who would rather challenge what needs to be changed and pay the price than remain silent and slowly die inside.
Amen. Sunday, didn't know we're having church in here today, but that is beautiful. Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you, Adam, for being courageous and sharing your story, because it's just a powerful one. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Shay. Couldn't have been possible without you and the help with Christine and the rest of the team to really make this thing happen.
And so if the listeners are listening and they're like, but like Adam said, if you need support, all you have to do is ask. And, that's the great thing about building this community is we do have team support. We're at, you can email us or text us or whatever, and we can answer as fast as we can. And we can sit down and go help you write it. We do writing prompts and trying to narrow it down to really specific of, because you could write, like Adam said, you could write so much about yourself, which is great, but we want to narrow it down to the specific theme. And you did such a beautiful job, Adam, doing that. So thank you so much for your contribution. And so I know that I'm going to put the banner up here that you people can buy your book at firestartersbookproject.com/Adam. And where else can people connect with you?
they can connect with me on Facebook. I'm the only Adam Boubede on there, so that's easy to find. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. And all of those links are located on that firestartersbookproject.com link. So feel free to connect with me, say hi. And like I mentioned, if you need help with something or you're interested in more details about my story, feel free to ask.
I love that. I love that. And one final question is, any parting words that you want to leave the audience with?
Yes. Don't be afraid to be that change.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for listening to The Power of Investing in People with Sha Sparks. I hope you enjoyed this episode, because I know I did. And Adam is just a huge inspiration. And feel free to check out his book at firestartersbookproject.com/Adam. And you can purchase his book on there. And, the money's going towards a good cause. He's in Germany. So thank you for being here, and thank you for listening.
Outstanding. Bye, everybody.
Until next time, let's get fired up.